Quincy Jones, the music producer extraordinaire, has died at the age of 91. A musician in his own right, Jones forged a reputation as the man who made the greats even greater. His musical nous and acumen helped hone the talents of Michael Jackson, for instance, for his Thriller album in 1982, and even Frank Sinatra from 1958 onwards. Jones also had hits on the silver screen, notably The Colour Purple, but he also scored movies such as The Italian Job, The Pawnbroker, and In the Heat of the Night, to name but three, in a long, long, long list.
Lionel Richie, Bob Dylan, Michael Jackson, Paul Simon and Tina Turner. It was Quincy Jones who got them all in the same studio for this historic track, recorded to raise money for the famine in Ethiopia in 1985. The producer, composer and musician was also a friend to these, the biggest names in pop music. Born on Chicago's gritty South Side, the young Quincy Jones dreamed of being a gangster when he was older, but music stopped him in his tracks, starting with a neighbour's piano. He quickly moved on to the trumpet, playing big band jazz and embracing a new family of musicians.
I didn't have a mother when I was young. My mother was put in a mental home when I was 7 years old, but she had dementia praecox. And I've said if I don't have a mother, I'll let music be my mother.
Frank Sinatra gave him the surname Q after working together. Then Jones made a name for himself with his Latino-style jazz. A detour through bossa nova on his way to revolutionize disco and funk. The success of the Brothers Johnson in the 70s saw Jones hone his craft as a hitmaker.
At the middle and the end of the 1970s, Quincy Jones left the world of pure jazz and opened up to more mainstream material, more pop and funk. And that's how he started working with Rufus, the Brothers Johnson, George Benson, and of course, Michael Jackson.
Blown away by his precocious talent, Quincy Jones encouraged the singer to break away from the Jackson 5 and develop the sound that saw Michael Jackson crowned King of Pop. And Jones himself became a superstar producer.
It's definitely thanks to Michael Jackson that he became the king of funk. Their collaboration was so notorious, so visible in the albums Off the Wall, Thriller and Bad.
The arranger and composer also worked with French talents, Henri Salvador, Nana Mouskouri and Charles Aznavour, more recently lending his touch to the songs of jazz singer Zaz.
There was so much joy in the studio, it was almost childlike. In fact, I think Quincy is a big kid. He's always having fun, he has this great energy, he's always looking to share things, to do stuff together, to make music.
300 albums, 2,900 songs and 28 Grammy Awards. Quincy Jones's signature is all over modern music, be it pop, funk or jazz.
Quincy Jones, the life, the legend. Let's bring in Mark Rozzo from Vanity Fair magazine, where he is the contributing editor, to give us more on the man who is Quincy Jones. The music, he said, was his mother. What a remarkable man. What are your thoughts at his passing?
Well, one thought that I have instantly in the passing of Quincy Jones, who really is a true titan of music and the entertainment industry going back amazingly to the mid-20th century now, is that, there's a truism that everybody knows the name of Quincy Jones, but maybe they don't exactly know what Quincy Jones did. And I think the reason for that is that for decade after decade after decade, Quincy Jones was everything, everywhere, all the time, and so it was impossible to pin down. He was so many things. He was a producer, he was a composer, he was an arranger, he was a mentor to so many musicians, he was an impresario. He founded a magazine called Vibe. He He was a record label executive. In fact, he was the very first black vice president of a white-owned record label, that being Mercury Records. That goes back to the 1960s. And, you know, he's the father of celebrity children, most notably Rashida Jones, the quite brilliant actor, producer, and director. So in some ways, the Jones family is something of a modern-day American entertainment a dynasty. So Quincy Jones was typically not the guy who was center stage in the spotlight, but he shaped so much of what contemporary music has been for decades, and had a hand in shaping the trajectories of, you know, genres like jazz, R&B, pop, easy listening, and the careers of some true titans of recorded music, including, of course, Frank Sinatra, Ray Charles, and Michael Jackson.
As you're giving us your insight, Mark, we're seeing him hugging Snoop Dogg. You've mentioned just two other people that he worked with who are absolute giants of music. And like you say, Quincy Jones, always there or thereabouts. The kind of, that little sort of like secret ingredient that makes it all come together.
Yeah, secret ingredient is a great way of putting it. You know, Quincy Jones is also a very accomplished home cook. He said that, you know, he made a gumbo that would make you want to slap your grandmother. And similarly, in the studio, he worked a certain magic with, like, you know, putting a dash of this, a dash of that, the right amount of spice, the right amount of heat, the right amount of sweetness, to create, you know, a feast for the ears, really, in record after record after record. It's you know, I'm practically speechless at how incredible the career of Quincy Jones is, and how the music that he made or helped to make has touched so many people who listen to so many different kinds of music, as you point out, all over the world.
My young daughter studies jazz. She's a singer. She has extolled how wonderful Quincy Jones is. There you go, evidence that, you know, another generation influenced by him. Who was the star, do you think, who he most helped to hone the talent, you know, sort of really sort of fine-tune?
That's really hard to say. I mean, it's really hard to say. There are the two big artists that he worked with, and it would be hard to take away anything from them as artists, as much as Quincy Jones is obviously a brilliant producer and really so talented at getting performance out of the artists and giving them the right framework in order to express themselves. But of course, the big relationships are with Frank Sinatra, which, as you mentioned, went back to 1958 and extended until Frank Sinatra's death in 1998. For Quincy Jones, Sinatra was this larger-life character, the greatest jazz singer, an impeccable musician, fabulous human. I mean, their bond was almost instant, and it was enduring. And Quincy Jones liked to say that he always kept Frank Sinatra's ring on his finger, a ring that Frank Sinatra gave him. And you know, it's quite possible that Quincy Jones, you know, left this world with Frank Sinatra's ring on his finger. So strong was their connection musically and personally. And then there's Michael Jackson, who, you know, Quincy Jones made that trio of albums, Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad, that cemented Michael Jackson as the reigning pop superstar of the 1980s and really made his reputation. That relationship was a lot trickier than the one with Sinatra, insofar as eventually Quincy Jones came to sue Michael Jackson for $9.4 million in unpaid royalties. And Quincy Jones would say things like, well, you know, take Thriller. You know, I had to sit down and listen to 800 songs before we found the ones to put on that album, thereby suggesting that even an artist at the level of Michael Jackson might not really be anywhere if it weren't for songs, and ... a great producer ... i.e. Quincy Jones. So there was a little, you know, maybe I don't want to say there was a feud there, but that relationship, as exalted as it is, and we all know about it, was maybe not as easygoing as his relationship with Sinatra.
Mark Rozzo of Vanity Fair, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your analysis with us. It's been great to find out that little bit more. And there always seems to be something more to find out about Quincy Jones. Thank you, sir, very much indeed. Great to see you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Mark Rozzo, his analysis of Quincy Jones, who will be remembered by so many people in so many different ways. A good producer is priceless in our business, whether it's music, whether it's television. My producer, Fanny Dassey, thank you for always being there. Do stay with us. We've got much more